Hello and a very warm welcome back to the Potters Pundits. And after a 1-0 loss against Leeds, we head all the way to Deepdale to take on playoff chasers Preston. And joining me for this preview, I am honoured to be joined from the YYY Files. It is Ben Rowley. How are you doing, mate?
As well as I can be with your team in a relegation battle, I suppose. Yeah, not too bad.
Not too bad for seeing as we're still in there at the moment. So
Yes,
it's not really the most comfortable position right now. But in all fairness, with this being filmed on Wednesday, yesterday against Leeds, in a way, it's one of them where yes, we didn't get the points, but I'm still quite optimistic. I'm quite yes, there's 10 games left, so there's still loads of time. But judging by that performance, I was quite happy with it. How did you see it?
I me too. Um, I think the main negative you've got to take away is that we had chances to win the game or even score a goal. We didn't.
Yeah,
That's that's been a common theme all season. But positives wise, half an hour we went down 1-0 after some really good defending, I have to say.
hmm.
And our heads didn't drop, which they normally do um when we concede. So, fair play for the team for that. And second half, I thought we were probably, apart from that chance where they went through one-on-one, probably the better team for most of that
Yeah,
half as well. And it's to their credit that I'm disappointed that they didn't come away with a point.
yeah,
Um, but that performance would have been great in September.
yeah,
Whereas now we're in March and we really, really need points, particularly with the league as they are. Every point is going to matter. Every goal is going to matter. So
yeah,
it's a good job we didn't get battered last night. But we really need the points. And
yeah.
that's the most disappointing thing where other teams are finding a way. Huddersfield found a way at the weekend against Leeds. We just didn't find it and hope it's not a case of, you know, we're a point off safety coming in the season.
Yeah, and it's one of them where you go, it's too little, too late. Where we've seen it in the game against Middlesbrough and then Leeds. We've continued that battle, that team performance, but in a way, it's all well and good having a good performance. But if you can't get the points at the end of the day, that's all that matters. But going into kind of what to me looks like a tough run of fixtures, in all fairness, you've got the likes of Preston, Norwich, Hull, all players or teams, sorry, who have a point to prove and at the end of the day want to get playoff promotion. Would you say that maybe it has come a little too late, or do you think you know what we've got a bit of time? I reckon we can save ourselves.
I think, I mean, if you look at the table and how close it is, I've said this before, of course we've got a chance. Of course we have. There's two of about 10 teams that could go down here. So we don't have to be one of them
Hmm.
if everything goes our way. But the way that other teams are picking up points, we're going to need 4 wins from this last 10 games. And
Yeah,
we haven't got many more than that in the previous 36. So it's a big ask of Stoke. What I would say is that we're playing much better now. We're
yeah,
playing with a lot more freedom. The synergy between the fans and the players was so much better at,
yeah,
at the weekend against Middlesbrough and by all accounts the same against Leeds. So perhaps there's reason to think that we have improved. Yeah, it is just whether it is a little bit too late. And
yeah,
yet it's a tough run of fixtures. You just hope that yes, these next few games, Preston, Hull, these teams are sort of chasing towards playoffs. Towards the end of the season, you're hoping that we start to play teams like Bristol, who got nothing to play for and perhaps on the
yeah,
beach a little bit, willing to rest a few of their players. I don't think we're quite in that boat yet.
yeah. I mean, as well, the thing is, like them performances, we played a lead side that at the end of the day deserve to be where they are. They've got so much quality. And the thing is, when I looked at the stats, I mean, 59% possession for Leeds, 41 for us. But then also we got shots away. How many times have we gone to Allen Road and either been hammered or just not really done much at all? Whereas this time, weirdly enough, we're a team further down. We were much better side, but against, of course, a Preston side who deserve to be where they are, a fantastic team. Do you think that it might be, say, the same result, or do you think, you know what, we should go into this a little bit easier?
you I think you've got to look at the top three or four in the Premier League. I mean, Ipswich are a bit of an anomaly, but you're looking at a 23 team Premier League essentially. You've got three teams who are just exceptionally good, have Premier League players in a position where we were 5 years ago and we didn't capitalize on. They are capitalizing on that now, and they're having some of the best championship seasons we've ever seen at this level. It's them being so good and scoring so many
Yeah.
points as to why the table's so condensed down the other end because they're beating literally everybody.
Yeah.
There's very few scalps being taken. Um, so with the remaining fixtures, I know we've got to play Southampton again, I think, haven't we? But
Yes. Yeah.
other than that, you're looking at championship teams that are beatable on their day. We know how
Yeah.
when we were finishing mid-table, how one week we'd be fine, the next we weren't, and that's how the rest of the championship is. Unfortunately, we've just either met teams on a good day too often this season, or we've been so poor throughout, and
Yeah.
we've conceded too many last-minute goals that we've seen. But the mentality seems better, so I'm more confident heading into these games. Like I say, I think we're capable of picking up more points than we have done throughout the rest of the season. It's
Yeah.
just whether we can keep pace with everybody else. QPR
Yeah.
doing well, Huddersfield doing quite well, Sheffield Wednesday close to moving above us. So it's it's tough. They're already on that momentum upwards. We're
Yeah.
slowly ticking upwards. That's the hard thing.
Yeah, and especially with them, I mean, Huddersfield, they got a point against Leeds. Yes, it was at home, but it's a very important point in terms of you see the difference in the league table. It's hardly anything. It's if you scrape a win, pretty or not, it's points. It's not performances, it's points. But looking at the table and everything that's going on, and of course, it's very competitive. You said 4 wins. Who do you think? I mean, I'm looking at it now. Huddersfield, Sheffield Wednesday, Plymouth, Swansea, all still to play. Do you think getting the points now against tougher teams is probably going to give us a bit more of a boost, or would you take maybe a point against these kind of teams?
That's a good question. Um, because I think actually these games that we've got left, it's such of more importance to beat the teams like Sheffield Wednesday,
Yeah,
like a like a QPR, like a Huddersfield, because it they're 6 pointers for a reason, aren't they? Particularly with
yeah,
the table as it is. If we go and beat Preston at the weekend, Huddersfield may go and beat whoever they're playing. Um, so do you risk it for a biscuit and try and get the do you try and get the advantage ahead of them before we go and play and putting that team under more pressure by the time we play them? Or you're right, do we try and bank a couple of points where we can? We know what
yeah,
Schumacher's going to do. He's going to go and try and win these last 10
yeah.
games. And credit to him. If we get 30 points between now and the end of the season, then he's a magician, isn't he? Um, but perhaps it would be a little bit more pragmatic to say, you know what, we have been conceding sloppy goals. Let's try and particularly in the first sort of 20 minutes of halves where we are conceding early goals. Let's try and settle their crowds down if we're away from home, same as we
Yeah,
did against Middlesbrough. And then let's try and win it from there on in. But the
yeah,
last thing, we can't be as we did against teams like Blackburn. We just can't go into the first 20, 30 minutes 2-3-0 down because
yeah.
that's game over then, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, especially against Blackburn, it was like that at the time they weren't in the finest of form, so we should have had every right to go at them like we did against Middlesbrough, and we were much the better side. We didn't wake up. We got punished by a team that finally put the ball in the back of the net, and that was that. But when like moving on to kind of this Preston game, when I'm looking at their side, they haven't got a massive goal scorer. Their goal scorer that they've got, Will Keane, is on 12 goals. Do you think that's been the story of the season for Stoke in the sense that we haven't had someone who's been the most kind of clinical in putting it in the back of the net?
Yeah, I mean, the goal scored is dreadful in it from a Stoke point of view. I
Yeah,
mean, I don't know how many goals it's been in the last few games at home, but we haven't seen enough. We haven't
no,
celebrated enough goals at home. I think before Middlesbrough, I think it was out of 20 games in all competitions, we scored 22 and 10 were against Rotherham. Like it, it's
yeah.
just
So
mind blowing, isn't it? So yeah, it's the fact that unfortunately Ryan May hasn't worked out this season as well as we thought he would,
yeah,
whether that through injury or attitude or some poor finishing on his part. But then I think there's a player in there and it was a good
yeah,
investment. But then it's not having a player if he's not firing. Someone like Dwight Gale we couldn't rely on. Wesley we can't rely on. Niall Ennis eh, for for his hard working and he's got a bit of endeavour about him. He's not missed that many chances. So, does he look like a poacher or a goal scorer for us? I'm not sure.
yeah,
Yeah, the problem is we've not got anyone to tap it in if someone else is faltering. You would hope that that would be someone like Vidigal, but he's not turned up really since August. Um, Same with Haksabanovic. Lloris unfortunately hasn't been playing very much, and we're relying on Beijon Ho. Don't be wrong, has been a revelation this season.
yeah,
He's way above where we probably expected him to be in his development, but
yeah,
we're relying on a 20-year-old. Um, the same with someone like Wouter Berger. Again, amazing how well he's progressed this season.
yeah,
But he's 22. We shouldn't be relying on him to be our best player. We should be relying on people like Daniel Johnson, Josh Laurent, Lewis Baker, who are those stalwarts who, you should be able to turn to and rely on. Preston, Will Keane, yes, he's not exactly a championship icon, but he's sort of been there and done it. Had a decent
yeah,
season with Wigan last season, right? So he's someone that you'd hope, no, might not score you 20 goals, but you can rely on. I think
yeah.
it's those senior figures that have let us down massively this season. That's where we've gone wrong.
Yeah, and I think as well when obviously you like we said about the performances coming now and not the start of the season, you see where obviously Lewis Baker's with the free kick against Rotherham, the goal that he scored against Middlesbrough, them little goals where it's just can come out of nowhere, especially the Rotherham one where it's a fantastic free kick and we've won the game. That moment of magic, I feel like we've lost it, as in we haven't had it this season, whether that's injuries or personnel or anything like that. But looking into this Preston game, what do you predict? What do you think? How do you think it's going to go? Or how do you think the 3 points are coming the way? Or do you think it's a bit too optimistic?
I think we're playing quite well. And I think we've actually found a system where we are creating chances and we've got an opportunity to score goals. It's just whether we can have someone that can tuck them away.
Yeah,
Um, I do anticipate a couple of changes because it's a 3 game week and we have got a young starting 11 at the moment. So for better or worse, that could benefit us.
yeah,
Preston will be going through a similar period at the moment. So, whether they choose to rotate players and whether they've got the strength in depth, I don't know. I don't think they have. So that might
yeah,
cause them issues. Um, I'm more confident now than I would have been 2 weeks ago or even a week ago because
yeah,
those two performances that we put in this week have been really good. And I
yeah,
think the players are finally starting to show their worth and Schumacher's got his team. We've got a bit of a plan.
yeah.
So I think we should be looking to this one with trying to win the game despite their, place in the table trying to go for playoffs. I think we should be going and trying to win.
Yeah, I mean, when I was looking at it, I didn't actually realize Preston were in such good form. That they're unbeaten since the end of January. They're playing some good football. They've played top sides. I mean, unfortunately, what's gone on today, that they aren't playing, which could have its advantages and disadvantages. But in terms of that, what you're going for? Do you reckon it'll be a kind of a goal scoring thriller, or do you reckon it'll be quite a tight match where the either side are just waiting for that bit of quality?
Brian Lowe seems to be quite a cagey manager, doesn't he? So I think from their point of view, they'd like it to be a low-scoring affair. It's
Yeah,
interesting because Schumacher's the opposite. I think he quite like a free-flowing 4-3 kind of game. So I don't know. It depends which man gets his own way. I can imagine Stoke being a little bit cagey, considering that, yeah, we know we can't mess up. We know we've got to get some points on the board. We can't
Yeah,
take many risks. So I don't know. I'd like to think probably something like a 1-1 draw. I don't think it'll be goalless. I think there'll be something that happens throughout the game, whether it be for
yeah,
Stoke or whether it be for Preston. But Ryan Lowe sides tend don't tend to be too free scoring. So
yeah,
yeah, probably 1-1 ish, I think, in the end.
yeah. See, the thing is, of course, it's that Brian Lowe versus Schumacher. Of course, they've had that partnership, so both of them know how each other work. So I agree with you. I don't think it'll be goal scoring, as in loads of goals. I mean, unfortunately, we haven't put it in the back of the net enough, but Preston have clearly. But for me, I'm gonna. I don't know if this is too optimistic, and maybe it's me going, "Oh, you know what? I'm feeling it this time." But I said that against Leeds, and I thought we were going to win. So, well, no, I thought we were going to draw. Sorry, but I'm going to go for a 2-1 win. I don't know if this is too optimistic or too much of me being biased, but I just feel like we'll just get it. We'll just have that little bit of quality, like Jun Ho had against Middlesbrough, that little bit of quality, and we'll win against obviously a side that haven't lost since January, but it's the championship. Anything happens, isn't it, really? So I'm going to go for a 2-1 win in that one. But you said about how you think there's going to be changes to the side. Of course, always in the championship, there's always games that the midweek ones are always an absolute chaos. And of course, against the lead side, we would have give it our all. So talk me through your lineups, kind of starting from the defense.
So Everson in goal for me is a no-brainer. Has been since he joined. I know Jack Bonham's done well occasionally, but that game against Leeds proved why Everson should be in goal, I think. Hoover's proved himself to be very good in the last couple of games as well, so I'd play him. And the Wilmot and Rose partnership seems to be working, so I'd stick with that too. The question is at left back and whether you want the left-footed player of Thompson, who I think is back from suspension, is
Yeah,
he for this?
yeah, he is.
Right.
Yeah,
So it's whether you want to go for the left footer or you want to go for someone with a bit more energy that Gooch has brought. And I thought he's been okay in that left back role, to be honest.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but he's worked very hard. I can see Thompson coming in and maybe Gooch is that utility man that will bring on with sort of 20, 25 minutes to go. Um, the midfield, I would keep the same. I think it on paper it's been our best midfield all season, and I think in
yeah,
practice it's worked to be the best midfield as well. Three really industrious, powerful, uh, got glimpses of quality midfield about them. I just don't think Luke Cundle's worked, unfortunately. I
mm,
know why Shuey's brought him in to try and play that 1-2 touch football, but he's not the sort of player you want in a relegation battle. I wonder whether, with it being a 3 game week, someone like Laurent or Baker gets a break.
yeah,
Maybe Cundle comes in, but ideally I'd like to stick with that midfield. And then it's up front because you've got Manaf who's 22, Bejan who's 20, and then Niall Ennis, who we know is a little bit vulnerable to injury.
yeah,
So I do kind of think Tyrese Campbell's going to come in up front. He does seem to like Tyrese in a central role, so go for it. Mehdi Lloris hasn't played many games, which is interesting. And I
yeah,
wonder whether it depends on the tactics here, whether he thinks that there's an out ball for him to knock on to Tyrese, or whether he's going to stick with Manhoof, who's been putting through those really cutting through balls into the
yeah,
box. No one's quite got at the end of it. Maybe Tyrese is that player.
yeah,
Um, and then Beijing Ho, again, like I've said, has been brilliant. Frustrating at times with his decision
yeah,
making, but I think that's the only thing holding him back. Does he need a break? He's played every minute for the last couple of games, I think. So I would consider giving him a break because the last thing we need is for him to put up with injury, and
yeah,
we've got very little attacking threat for the last 9 games. So who comes in his place? You've got Vidigal, you've got Haksabanovic, you have options that we sort of
yeah,
forget about. So I think the changes will probably come up front. And
yeah,
if you made me pick now, I'd probably stick Vidigal in there, try and get him going. Um, but then do you take Beijing Ho out, who's in a bit of a purple patch? It's a bit harsh, isn't it? So
yeah.
difficult call for the manager. He's got options. It's just how much confidence he has in them.
Yeah, and as well, like when you're looking at it, it's obviously tough fixtures, but then after that, you've got the teams that are in and around where we are. you don't really want to, in a way, risk them against tougher teams, so that then we have that quality against the teams that haven't put it in the back of the net. But I do agree with you on it, to be fair. So Iverson in goal for me. I thought against the likes of Middlesbrough and Leeds, the kind of that key moment against Middlesbrough in that first half where he stood strong, and I'm not too sure who it was that went. I think it was. I'm not too sure who it was. To be fair, I was going to say the
No,
wrong
I'm
person.
not either.
But he stood strong, and it's game changing moments like that that obviously gave us the 3 points. So, and then maybe a little bit harsh on Bonham because he hasn't been too bad. He's had spells where I thought, you know what, been solid, been consistent, but we've seen the mistakes at the start of the season, so I don't see a reason. But on that back line, I'm going to stick with the same back four of Hoover, Wilmot Rose, and Gooch. I know obviously Thompson's back, but for me, it's one of them where I think Gooch has been solid enough at the left back role for him not to be changed. I think he's a very, very good experienced player, and one of them where he hasn't looked out of position, and we've been solid because we've had a clean sheet against Middlesbrough, and we've only a deflected effort from Dan James against Leeds. So it's nothing that you could say the defence. So I think Schumacher will go, okay, you know what? They've been solid. And for one of the first times this season, we haven't looked defensively struggling. So I'm going to go for that back four. It sounded like I was crying, and that was back four. But onto the three in the midfield. I agree with you in the sense that it's about like rotation and one of them where I don't know whether because obviously like Baker and like Laurent who have had kind of not long-term injuries but a sustained period of time that they've been injured. You don't want to risk them because they've got that bags of quality. So for me, I'm struggling because I'm gonna go for Berger, who has been absolutely superb, like probably one of the players of the season this season, but as well with Baker, and I'm gonna go for Kundal. And the reason I'm going for Kundal is because I think with Laurent being the most recent person coming back, I think he's a fantastic player, a great captain. But I'd only bring Kundal in so that we don't overuse Laurent. And with him only just coming back, well, not only just, but only recently coming back, I prefer him to not risk it in a game where he played well against Leeds. And but then it works both ways. To be fair, I think Kundal could be a good player having off the bench. So not changing that midfield three, who are very very strong. I'd only put Kundal in because I feel like just freshen it up and just so that we don't really injure. And like we said about them lesser teams, hopefully we have our full strength side. And then on that front three, I don't know, because when you think about it, we have got loads of options, loads and loads of options, but where's the quality in them options? We know what they can bring. They've got loads of potential, all of them have, but we haven't seen them as much. But I'm stuck between. I think on the wing, he'll keep it the same. I mean, I know the young lads, and I mean, John Ho, same age as me, so that makes me feel well, I don't know, quite jealous. So, but no, he's a great player. But I think I don't know. He might chop and change because you've got the options. But I'm going to stick with Juno on the left and Manouf on the right. Both great players, and I think as well they've shown what they've made of. To be fair, it's not as though they haven't shown their quality. They've got loads and loads, especially John Harry, he's a superb player, and as well him scoring goals as well. It just it's like the definition, the pinnacle of him. So and then up top, I don't know. I'm stuck between Niall Ennis and Campbell because I do like Niall Ennis. I said on my little preview that he runs round, he works his socks off, and against the Preston side, will we need that a little bit more? Where if we can break them down, make them a little bit shaky. But he did come off in about kind of 52nd, 55th minute, something like that against Leeds. Was that because of an injury or because of you don't really know. So I'm gonna stick. I'm gonna. I don't know. I'm stuck because you said Campbell. It's in my head. Um. But yeah, I'm gonna go for. Oh, this is really
Not
tricky. I don't.
Wesley.
No, I don't think he's. Is he? Was he even on the bench against
I'm not
Leeds?
sure actually. I can't remember last time I seen Wesley on a picture.
Yeah,
So
I was going to say I don't. I'm not too sure who's kind of not been in there, but Oh, I don't know. I'm going to go for Niall Ennis just because with him bringing him off on the 55th, I think it was sorry, I think it was precaution and just to kind of go, you know what, right, maybe it isn't working right now. Saving for Preston, don't injure yourself. So I think you'll be happy with that front three, which for me is a very good front three and probably has bags of quality. But like that Campbell off the bench that we had against Leeds, he had a good chance to be fair, looked good. And I mean we know what Campbell brings to the table, we all do. But unfortunately, with injuries and other things that's gone on, we haven't had the best side of him come out at the moment. But I don't think that you could have any arguments for him to come out if he was in the side and then he was dropped because of personnel and injury. But in terms of that team, do you reckon there's anyone in the team that deserves a chance to be in the lineup, or do you think you know what this is our best 11?
I think after weeks of tinkering, I think he's finally found his best 11, which is
Yeah,
fine. It's funny because they don't need to be our best 11 players. It needs to be a team of 11 that
yeah,
works together, which we've not found probably since we've come down, to be honest. We've had good players, just not been able to gel at all.
yeah,
Um, Campbell's an interesting one, I think, because we against Leeds particularly, we had lots of half chances,
yeah.
no clear-cut options, and for me, Campbell's probably our best taker of half chances that we've got.
Hmm.
So perhaps that swings it in favour for me slightly.
Yeah,
Um, the only other debate I've got, Wouter Berger's got one game left to ride out his yellow cards.
yeah,
It's do we stick or do we twist? Do we tell him do not get a yellow card?
yeah,
Or do we do we let him miss this one? We haven't got Pearson to bring in, so is that where Thompson comes in?
yeah.
It's difficult call, very difficult.
And the thing is, the good thing is that yes, Pearson got sent off, but then we've got Thompson back, who we know has got loads of quality, very versatile, and there's times where when he was playing left back, he'd be in the middle anyway, so he'd be doing a similar role. But I don't know now that you said that about Berger. Uh, I mean, they brought him off not early, but like fairly soon into that second half. That it was like, oh, that's why they brought him off because I didn't even think about the yellow cards and against the Preston side who maybe if we score early, all them little nippy fouls that if you're a card happy ref, unfortunately it is going to happen. But do you risk it or do you not? But just before we finish off, it's just come in my head. What would you say is your opinions on that Ben Pearson? Two yellow cards.
If they were for dragging back a last man or trying to win the ball back, or if it was a foul that you go, oh, that's not a yellow,
Yeah,
then I'd have sympathy with him. But they were for a punch and a push, weren't they? Or something like that, or
yeah,
a headbutt. He, this is what I was talking about when trying to rely on your senior players in relegation battle.
yeah,
It's a disgrace, an absolute disgrace. He's got no excuse to get either of those yellow cards. Um, it's credit to Berger for if someone had wound Pearson up, credit to Berger for having the composure not to get himself a yellow card where
yeah.
Ben Pearson got two. So I'm furious with him, considering that we need options and heads to rely on. I don't think we'll see him again in a Stoke shirt now. I don't think Schumacher will want to see him in a Stoke shirt anyway.
Yeah, I mean the thing is as well, he's an experienced player, but as well in when he was playing, like as in that Leeds game, there was times where he was getting the ball moving, like what Berger does so well, getting the ball moving, getting us up the pitch, and we're looking good. It's not as though when he came on, it faltered us, but it's one of them where when you look at the two yellow cards, I don't think he'll be best pleased with himself, but it's things like that when you look back on this season, your experienced championship players have to do better. It's as simple as that. But there we have it then. I hope you guys enjoyed. Ben, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. You've made me think about all well, who's going to be in this team because most of the time I just talk to a camera and go through what I think of, but you've made me proper think, you know what? Maybe I do need to open myself up. But there we have it then, guys. Been an absolute honor having Ben on. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully 3 points but I'd take a point. Until next time, I'll see you later.